Initially, I did work for in a VPO for 3 months, and then so I did a certification by sponsored by Government of India, and the very first skill is required today, and which is very important, is tools depends on what problems you are solving, and more or less there are different problems. And probably if you'll work in different domain, there would be different tools. I think the clear path that what all I need to do to work as business analyst. I was not getting time for my family on Saturday and Sunday. Those are the crucial days. You will never get holidays on those days. Initially, it was a retail job, so I was very. It is a tiring job, retail job. You have to stand for like 8-9 hours, and so I started my career. I mean, I started very early. I started when I was in my first year. I just passed my 12th, and I was doing everything from open learning. So I was doing my bachelor's from open learning, Delhi University, and that point of time I started looking for a job. And initially, I did work for in a VPO for 3 months, and then I moved to, like, that point of time it was 2012, and that point of time there was a hype like retail is growing, then government does some MSME courses. So I did a certification by sponsored by Government of India, and it's a 3 month certification. By that I got to introduce with retail, and I got a job in retail sector. So I was working then as a in retail store. You must have heard about Lifestyle and Max. These all brands are of LandMark Group, and I was working with one of the group which is Lifestyle. So India, everything like you have Home Center, you have Lifestyle, you have Baby Swap. These are the brands which you will find across the Lifestyle, and they work under the umbrella of Lifestyle International. In Middle East, you will find those in the LandMark Group. So I started working there as a customer service associate, and initially it was a retail job. So I was very. It is a tiring job, retail job. You have to stand for like 8-9 hours, and you just have to attend the customers whatever problem they are facing. So in the first 3 months, I was very I mean, it was very tiring, and I was not getting time for my family on Saturday and Sunday. Those are the crucial days. You will never get holidays on those days. So I was thinking that what can I do in my career to come out from this, and it was a low paying job. Like, so you were working as a customer service associate initially, and I that point of time in my education, my experience, there was nothing that can give me the higher elevation in my career. So I was thinking, and then I found someone working in backstore there, and backstore is like someone working on the system, and we call it back office or blah blah with different names. So I was thinking that point of time I want to do something like this where you get Saturday off, Sunday off. In normal jobs, you have to work for 6 days. That was initial motivation, and then I started searching like what are the skills required to uh, get to into that career. And retail was like I mean some point in time I felt embarrassment also in the retail job, and I had at some point every job is job, but in retail you have to clean your section. You have every section is allotted. So the brand, the section which you have given to you have to do dusting, just like you do in at home. So you have to clean up your section, pile up the clothes, everything you need to do. So then after doing 1 year of experience there, I thought like I need to learn these things like Excel, Word, emailing, how you can do email, basic things. So when you are 12th pass, you doesn't have these skills. Probably if you are doing something from, like, you are doing schooling from some prestigious school, probably this. But at that point of time, 2012, you doesn't have that skill. So then I started looking for those kind of job where I can use some of these skills. I had some exposure in those skills, but I was looking where I can implement and work and get experience. Then I started working. I mean, I tried a lot of places, but multiple rejection because I doesn't I mean that point in time I didn't have experience and I was looking for a job like that. So multiple rejection. Then I got a job in a company which is known as the RR Financial Consultant. It's a very it was sometime well known in 1990s, but then they have lost their goodwill and name and fame, everything. The company is still in, I mean, in somewhere in Delhi, but that point in time, it was near to Rajiv Chowk, Jhandewalan. So I started working there, and I did so many mistakes there. I mean, I sent wrong emails. And there was a manager of me that was working there with me, who was like he was shouting on me, but his intention was not to shout, but he was like trying to, people try to motivate you in different way by scolding on you, by saying some bad words, but their intention is to make you good. So I learned a lot there by doing mistakes. I mean, doing wrong emails, doing some random things. But out from there, in that year, I learned a lot in how do you work in office, how do you email, how do you work on Excel. So these are the basic stuff. When you go and you want to work with any company, you need those kind of skills. And after working there, it was like 2015. That point of time, I started looking for a job again. And Paytm, I heard that Paytm is hiring like 3,000 people. And at this point of time, my graduation was also completed. So uh, I went there and I gave my first interview, and I was rejected. And still, on those days, I had some problem of confidence and my fluency, probably English communication, which is always required, or maybe I was not that confident to speak enough. So in first round, which was JD, and I remember that there was a topic given, and I was rejected in the first round because I was not speaking enough. So then I got another some from somewhere. I got another mail one day. Again, I went there, and this time I went to like final round. So like they were taking 3 4 round. These were the initial days of Paytm. So then I was again rejected in the final round. So then again I got an email from somewhere, and I went there to for the third time. So third time the HR recognized me, and this was a job for like BTechs. So they said like you have completed BCom, but this job role is for BTech. But still HR said like I've seen you coming before. I'm forwarding your resume. So if you get selected, then uh good. So at that time I got selected. Initially in Paytm, I worked in like uh Paytm first, Paytm malls. So Paytm has this Paytm mall earlier, which is a e-commerce. So I worked in an e-commerce branch where I was working with cataloging team. Then from cataloging in 2016, 17, I moved to uh, their Google Analytics team. And while I was from 2014 to 2015 16, I was working in PT, and I did so many things like learning SAP, learning digital marketing, and all these learnings has helped me in in my career to become a generalist. So having knowledge in everything, small like insights from all the departments, and that comes together to kind of give you the insight. Okay, how marketing works, how finance work exactly, because these different domains gives me the kind of complete knowledge. So while I was like in 2000, I was in uh, I was in Paytm in 2017. I started learning about analytics, like learning. C SQL learning, learning Python. I did a offline course, and then I started internally. I started to look for the business analyst role. So in Paytm, I moved to the Google and Central Google Analytics team. I started working with business analyst. I started working with tech team for Google Analytics implementation and then analytics domain. So this is where I started the journey. Journey started, and since I started from scratch, uh, this is the point of time like you doesn't get raised that you want. Like your peers, probably you are working as a business analyst, but your peers are working at quite a higher salary, and you want that to be equalized. So that was not like in Paytm, that was not happened. But I remember I got a job in one of the, I got an offer letter from Jagran as that point of time, like Jagran newspaper. So then they matched my offer, and then I worked in Paytm for another 1 year. And this is the time I got the like satisfaction with my salary, because it was kind enough to have say that it's a good salary at that point of time. And this is what I wanted by learning and doing everything in my career. So in I had this fascination that I want to work in Bangalore. It's called Silicon Valley of India at that point of time. So in 2019, I got a job in Bangalore, and I moved to Bangalore, and I started working with Landmark Group again, but it was a contractual job. And my first experience also was with Landmark, but it was with Lifestyle. There's one brand. So I started working with Landmark Data Labs as business analyst, and there I worked for a year. And but it was a good stint. I did a lot of things and I learned a lot. Then uh, during the COVID time, uh, I was doing good, but because COVID happened and there was like a lot of firing, so they were not firing me, but it was like they said we will enroll you, but they were like no, we can't do it because COVID is happening, this and that. So there was some uncertainty, but I was not happy, so I left the job. But luckily, the company which I was working there. I was working for Landmark there, Landmark Data Labs. But Landmark has this structure of where they have like Center Point, and there are different brand of them. So one of their brand is Center Point in Dubai, and then somebody from Dubai called me that, do you want to join us here? So that point of time during the COVID in August, I moved to Dubai and I started working with Landmark uh, there. So they have the brand Center Point, something similar like Lifestyle here. So I was working there as a senior business analyst with in Landmark corporate office, which is like head of India and everything. So for their e-commerce brand, I was working, and I was working there with one of my mentor who was earlier working with me in Paytm. So I worked there for like 2 years, and this time I had a unique opportunity and experience to learn with business people. Earlier, I was working with more like doing analytics project and all that, but this time I was working more like a business team and their requirement and solving all the data requirements they have, the problems which they have. So those kind of stuff, and then uh, in around 2000 like 2022. Uh, uh, this now I was approached by now in Dubai itself. They had office in Dubai, so they said like, "Do you want to join here?" I had an interview, and they found good. So it is a startup. So they offered me the role of head of analytics and insight. And from last 2 years, I'm working there. I would say like I think the clear path that what all I need to do to work as business analyst or whatever I want to do. Like I met a guy initially who was a business analyst, and I was motivated. Earlier in my career, I was confused, but when I met this guy, I tried certain technology. I had like that I like this work and I want to do it. But a lot of time I was uh, not confident that tech is something which is special skills, I can do it or not. Because I was a commerce graduate, I did BCom, and that confidence was not there. So I always wish that if I could have done my bachelor's in probably technology, computer science, I would have grown more in my career. And even like analytics, if you want to do, if you have a base of computer science, then I think you can do better. So if somebody could have given me that guidance earlier, and I could have done more focus work in when while I was studying in 11th, 12th, then probably I would have done better. So I wish that somebody could have given me that guidance while I was doing my 10th or 11th, so that I can prepare in my initial jobs. I've used BigQuery, SQL, Hive, Google Data Studio. Uh, Now it is known as Looker Studio. I've used Google Analytics, Google Analytics 4. Used MoEngage. So, and Power BI, Tableau. There are a lot of tools. Tools depends on what problems you are solving, and more or less there are different problems, and probably if you'll work in different domain there would be different tools. But the tools, primarily you need a language, you need either R or Python, you need a SQL query, which is like database language. You need a query which is like Python or R, because you need to take data from the database. You cannot manipulate entire data into database itself. So you take like trillions or like millions of rows which cannot be kept in Excel. So you take it in the Python, and then you do all the calculation, and then again you export into Excel, and then you present it on Power BI, or maybe if you have a data, if you have a visualization tool, then you present it there. Otherwise, you present it on Excel. So at the end of the day, you will use PowerPoint or Excel, but I mean, when you have more data, you will use R or Python, and then you require a database language. So these are not solution for scalable business. It depends on what you want to do. Solution, like if you take an example of Google Analytics or Power BI, or uh, so if you take Google Analytics, let's say, if you want to measure your traffic, and if you want to see what users are doing, and then you can track every browsing history of users by Google Analytics. So this is one thing. If you want to like, if you have, if you're running ads, then you want to see which ads is performing, which not ads not performing. Like you can analyze ads on the console of Facebook probably, or Google Ads probably. But that user is coming onto your website and then or app, and then whether that user is transacting or not transacting, bouncing back, that you cannot do on that tool. That tool will say that okay, you run ads of this much money, this many user went to your website, but how many of them have transacted or not transacted, that traffic which is coming to your site, whether that is reliable or not. So based on the problem, you use different tools. Now you want to present the uh, mm, um, you want to present data to your CEO or maybe somebody. So maybe you will use you will use what's called Microsoft uh, PowerPoint. And let's say you want to create a dashboard. Let's say your customer service team requires some data regularly. So you can create a dashboard and you can share it with them. They can filter out and download, and or probably they can watch the performance or anything which specifically for them. So you can create a dashboard for them specific for a specific requirement. You can create dashboard for, let's say, for senior management. You can create a dashboard where they can see everything, how things are going. So based on that, you use tool for scalable in any scenario, like any problem you're solving for that. Or if you are a startup, you do everything on Excel itself, Excel uh, and Google Sheet. Like you can create a dashboard on Google Sheet itself. You can do a lot of things on Google Sheet by app. They had like Google Sheet has a feature called mm, mm, app apps. So you can go into Google Sheet and you can code into Google Sheet itself, and that will run on cloud. So there are a lot of solutions which you can build and by yourself in Python itself. So if I need to name one tool, I would say go with Python and with combination of Google Sheet. You will be able to do a lot of things. So let's say you are uh, what sentiment analysis tells you that uh, what is the sentiment, what how does people feel about your brand. And so let's say you are a Google, and uh, when um, Google launch Gemini, and let's say or anything, how people are reacting towards that product, or how industry is reacting towards that product, that you can measure by sentiment analysis. And it's typically like how many people are saying negative. Let's say you run a poll, and in that poll like 60% of people saying no, and 40% of people saying yes. So you have yes 40 and no 60. And if we say no means negative things, people are abusing or anything. So let's say in similar context, when people talk about your brand online or anywhere, and if that is negative, then you have a negative sentiment. And if you have more positive, then it's a positive sentiment. So you typically take data, and you see it's typically a text analysis where you do all the analytics required to understand that text, whether that is positive or negative. And that is how it is not for like business. It is now getting used everywhere. Even uh, you have elections happening, and there are too much content available on the internet, so you can sense the sentiment of the for the specific party as well. Like, so yeah, so this is how it is used. So foundational steps, as I said earlier, uh, there are different roles in analytics. There are different domains. Uh, I mean, not domain. There are different functions, and based on function, you need skills. The very first skill is required today, and which is very important, is Excel and Google Sheet. People are collaborating through Google Sheet or Excel. I mean, ultimately data is getting presented there. And then if you are very good in it, you know, you can write formulas, you can search. Then the next step comes is learning a database language, and that is SQL. Now, every company is storing data in some kind of database, and you need to pull data from there, and then only you can do anything. So next is SQL. Now, there are different version of SQL. There are different tools available in the market, which like you have Redshift, you have BigQuery, you have this, you have that, and everything is starts with SQL. If you know SQL very well, you can transition to any language. Like if you any tool, like if you're using Redshift, if somebody using something else, be you will be able to shift or transition to that very easily. So next is SQL. Then if you want to, like, as you know SQL, you know Excel. And now the next thing is learning either R and Python. If you learn Python, there are more chances for you to do good in your career, because there is more demand of Python. R is little less, but if you know R, then you will, even if you know R, there are good chances of you getting opportunity. Now the next thing is, when you have these technical skills, if you can understand and domain, like if you are working with e-commerce, if you're working with let's say fintech, what are the challenges of those industry, what the like business side, if you can understand, then you can work better as a business analyst or someone who, otherwise if you have technical knowledge, you will be able to work with some CTO or technical people. All the analytics you will do, probably that will more suited for technical data analysts, or you will work with CTO and tech side of people because they also do some kind of analysis. And the next thing is like if you can have some good understanding, like basic, what is standard deviation and what is A/B testing. That is like your statistics. If you can do better, now after having this, you can transition to more into uh, uh, data engineer or data scientist or more opportunity in your career. But this is kind of foundation. This is what a bare minimum requirement which you need these days, because there are a lot of people who learn few things and they're just in the market and everybody is like, I want to work in the data, and they doesn't have good skills. It doesn't work quite a much. It's just like, if you, only difference is like timing. You are working with different time zones now. uh, if I have to, if I talk about Nigeria and India, uh, we have a working hour of Nigeria starting from like 1 o'clock, 1:30, and they are starting at 1:30 p.m. and uh, we are getting over at 6:30. So we have this time to connect and do everything which required, where we need a discussion. So this time zone is a constraint. Otherwise, you have different data set where probably if product is in, and it's all depends on where is the product. If your target customer or customer who is using the product in Nigeria, probably the patterns is different, probably the spending behavior of those users are different, the way they are using the features of the product is different. So that is only the difference, there's nothing much. Data contradict common business assumption. Yeah, it happens. It happens like you have earlier businesses which doesn't works with data, like they were working with gut feeling, and a lot of time the gut feeling is not same when you see the data. That's why a lot of people these days are using data, because they can't run businesses with the gut feeling. So that's why people started using more and more data, because uh, the behavior changes over time. Probably the way business are working in this decade may not work in next decade. So that's where you can have presumptions, you can have like your initial thought and hypothesis, but you always validate it with the data. So there are various ways. So a common example of it is like you do this user journey analysis. Let's say uh, you have an onboarding app, you have an onboarding flow in any app, and you try to check, okay, what is working or what is not working in that flow, where my most of users are facing challenges. So you do funnel analysis in Google Analytics and or any tracking tool. There are a bunch of others in the market as well. So while doing this, you analyze that point, and most of the time with product managers, and product managers requires this data, and they take this data, and with this data they incrementally change product. So you see a lot of time when you open any app, you see some icon is moving from this and there from here to there, and the layout of the product is changing. This is all because one thing, they found a better layout uh, which inspire user to use more feature of the product. So if you have created UI which is not very intuitive, then user will not be able to use the product. And all this uh, required to see how many users are using your feature, and if they are not using the feature, why they are not using. So all this require digital data where you track the traffic, what all actions they are doing, and then you do analysis, the funnel analysis, and then you kind of take decision based on this insight. Really, for prioritizing everything, we have everywhere in corporates now these days, you have calendar, and uh, you you just have a block time for everything. Now I have 30 minutes block in the morning where I see what all I need to do, and based on that I prioritize what I'm supposed to complete. There are things which may go to the next day. So this is how I prioritize. A typically day goes like I start at 10, and 10 to 10:30 is my block time, and then I just make the list of what I'm supposed to do, how the day will go, and then I start working as per my calendar. Uh, Fintech a lot in India. Fintech has matured a lot, and you can already see like we have done UPI and a lot of innovation in India. So I think like fintech is quite mature. There are only few startup or few company which will come similar to Paytm. The next thing which you will do a lot incremental if something comes new, like, but fintech is I mean in India is growing a lot, but and I see a lot of innovation in connected. Currently, like if you take money from the US, transfer money from US, it comes to India with a quite a long time of it. Like it takes 1.5 day or 2 days, sometimes 2 days. So I think it will get more faster, something like UPI, which is quite faster and such. If we will be able to integrate such kind of technology with all the countries, maybe the speed of these transfers may increase. Uh, and talking about e-commerce, also like from other perspective, and if you see the fintech industry, there are a lot of innovation inspired by India happening all across the world. So this is growing industry, and it will keep growing for next 5 years. Now talking about the e-commerce, you can see the space in India dominated by Amazon and Flipkart. And you will see like whenever the market gets matured, there are two or three big players in the market. Rest is like small players, and they are taking some chunk of it. Like there are small startup coming and doing one stuff like selling up barrels only. But these days, if you watch Shark Tank, every time they say like, "Are you selling on Amazon? Where are you selling D2C and this and that?" So in e-commerce, there are more brands which will come to which will come as D2C direct. They are selling to consumers and through Amazon. And if you see like something like Blinkit, it will also grow. Like uh, earlier, people were saying, "What is the need of Blinkit 5 minute delivery?" But a lot of people have started using Blinkit and mm, Zepto. Like you need something, you're ordering from Blinkit. So these kind of innovation may come. Uh, I mean, may come differently, but e-commerce largely the pie will go to. I mean, I that's what I think, to the Amazon and Flipkart. And
Oh,
even if you see the US, in US as well, the largely it goes to uh, what's called Amazon, and against Amazon, Walmart is there. So even in India, Flipkart is acquired by Walmart. So Walmart has retail store, but uh, they have started competing with Amazon, and they have online presence as well. Um, a lot of time we start. Uh, so my advice would be the same thing which I told you earlier when you asked about the basic foundation which is required. Have that foundation, which is like having the knowledge of Excel and Google Sheet. You need the knowledge in one of the language with either R and Python, and then you need a um, query language which is SQL. And then further, if you want to keep yourself stronger, like in you are going in interview, you want to stand out, learn some more statistics where you learn A/B testing, what is standard deviation, more the depth of statistics, more you will do, the more you will stand out because people are weak in statistics. And then the understanding of business, wherever you are going, wherever domain you are trying to crack, understand that domain specifically, properly, what problem, what challenges that domain and that company, those kind of companies are facing. So by that only you will be able to crack. If you are totally new into analytics, these skills require at least 1 year. People will go for 3 month course and start thinking that they will crack into analytics domain. They are quite beginner. So maybe you need 1 year. If you are totally new, you don't have background of tech, you at least minimum 1 year required to spend. And you need to be very like, you need to solve those things practically by doing of by finding resources online, doing some hands-on work to understand and crack the interview. Otherwise, there are a lot of people in the market, and you will be not able to crack the interview. It depends on what your goal is. Like a lot of people, if you are focused on profit, the simple thing is like, what is the profit I'm making on each transaction? There are a lot of metrics which founders need to look at while considering the business growth. But there are a lot of things which is required. Like if you have a marketing team, then CAC is something which is required. And a lot of these metrics, if you watch Shark Tank, you'll get like, what are these metrics? Like they try to analyze business itself by asking what is your new to repeat rate. So one of the things is like, what is your repeat rate, which is very very important. Then and typically if you are desi people, like you want to, for you the profit is main thing, then you need to look at like what I'm earning, what is my, am I my unit economics. Yeah. So if you are someone who is more focused on profit, then you need to look at unit economics. Am I making profit or not? If you're more like you have funding and you want to grow business, then you need to look at the repeat rate of your product. If your repeat rate is more, then people are using your product frequently. Otherwise, you are just burning money and you're not growing.